And of course, we're going to start with Senator Alma Francis Heiliger. You are recognized for your 7 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the testifiers. And good morning to the people of this territory. I first want to start off by asking a question to the union representatives, as well as anyone representing any individuals from fire EMS. Going through the testimony and just listening to what is being said, I hear a lot of strong opposition. And I just want to understand one thing. Is your opposition from the perspective of not wanting fire and EMS to merge, or your opposition is from not being included in the process and the potential outcome if you don't have a say? Unions, anyone?
Good day, Senator Heiliger. This is Eugene Irish, Vice President of the UIW. To answer your question, we are not against anything that is going to be for the betterment of health service or fire service in the Virgin Islands that would provide a better service to the people of the territory. However, basically what the government is asking us to do is to support a document for which we have no information, we have no details as to how it's going to affect our members. We hear this broad statement about it being bettering for the people of the Virgin Islands, but there's no detail to support that.
I totally understand that.
We also hear statistics, but we're not getting any information as to where these statistics are coming from. I don't know if they're being pulled out of a hat, out of the air or anything, because the statistics that we have is totally different.
I totally understand that. I want to thank you for sharing that. So it's not that you're opposing the merger, you're opposing the potential effects and the way it's being done. For you, Mr. Eugene Irish, I want to ask you a quick question. I looked at your testimony and they're quite similar, but you made reference to a meeting that was canceled on February the 19th, and because there was not a copy of the Virgin Islands Fire Service and EMT merger plans. Now, I took the time out to have my staff call the Office of Collective Bargaining, and we did get a chance to speak to Ms. Joss Springett, and she said that she was able to have meetings from last term, but it is correct that this information was not readily available at the time. Since that meeting was canceled on the 19th, has any information been given to you guys as to the plans and the merger since then?
No, Senator.
Nothing. Okay. Nothing. I'm starting to feel like I'm having a sense of deja vu, because as a member of this legislature, the 34th, I was an employee for 22 years. So I was privy to listening to some of the previous testimony in the 33rd. And I'm literally feeling like I'm just hearing the same thing with no improvements, with no changes or nothing. So I'm almost feeling like, what are we doing here? If people are serious about this merger and everyone has come forward and shared information about things that needed to be improved, but I'm not really seeing in any of the documents, I'm looking at testimony which looks like from 2021 and 2020, like they just copied the paperwork. What exact changes were made in order to convince this body to push this legislation forward? Because if you're not serious about fixing the issues and the union is still repeating the exact same thing they're saying from last year, what is the problem here? What do we have to do to fix this? Now, I also want to ask the question, Mr. Darrell George made mention that this merger is going to deal with better and faster response times. Has any discussion in this merger plan circulated around Vitima because they potentially might have to have some discussion in this as well. Anybody can give me any updates on that? Mr. George?
Yes, Director George. Good afternoon, Senator. Yes, we have had this frank discussion with Vitima. We have discussion with Just Springett, the Division of Personnel. One of the key elements we're having discussion with OCB was because several times it's been said that we had no discussion. We have had discussion at Government House with all the employees of St. Croix. We have had discussions in St. Thomas with the employees. And again, only one thing I could say right now that they're right with, the plan was not readily available to them on the one meeting.
And that meeting was this year, February of 2021.
That was last year, Senator.
Last
year?
So from
Yes,
last
ma'am.
year to this year, what have you done to make sure that these plans are available? Because everybody here keeps saying we don't know what's going on. And that confuses me a lot, because I would think that, explain that to me.
Well, I'll leave Lyle talk a little more, because he's been a front person going to all the employees and individuals and speaking to them. So Lyle, if you want to jump in and give some detail.
Yeah, hi, good morning. Lyle Evelyn, Assistant Director of EMS. So we've been having continuous meetings. And because of COVID, we kind of fell out with having the meetings, but I try to always make myself available to the EMS staff in both districts and also the fire service personnel to let them know what the plans are of the fire service and what we're doing in terms of the integration. So we have made ourselves accessible.
Mr. Evelyn, when was the last time you actually had a meeting?
I usually have weekly meetings with the EMS leadership team every Wednesday, but we haven't had one for the past 3 weeks because
when was the last time you had a meeting? When one actually happened?
The last meeting I had with the EMS leadership team was probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, approximately.
So there was no meeting knowing that this meeting was coming up to see where their thought process was. Well, from the meetings you've had before, can you share with me what are some of the chief concerns that they might be having in regards to this merger?
A few of the concerns that were expressed was they want assurance that the care that we are providing will be based upon national guidelines, that we will make them a priority. Like, they will not come into the fire service and be lost. So they wanted assurance that even though we're integrating both entities, that they will be given priority in terms of training, advancement, and that there will be no hindrance in terms of the care that's provided by the EMS providers.
Madam Chair,
Senator Francis Heyliger, your time was called.
I know. Could I ask one last question?
Yes, you may. You may proceed.
Thank you. This question is to the Health Commissioner. I want to find out from you in regards to the entire process. What has been done in regards to reassuring the EMS that, because I keep hearing that's their biggest issue. They're worried about benefits changing and things being altered. Does this legislation change anything in regards to a potential merger between fire and EMS?
Thank you for that question, Senator. The union membership and benefits will not change. Of course, once the merger takes place, we would have to inform the differences or the changes in terms of the leadership of the employer. GVI, DOH will now be shifted to GVI Fire Service. That would be the only difference, but no change to benefits.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the indulgence, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Heiliger. Just for clarification, proceed to Senator Francis Heyliger very quickly. Senators, please be respectful of the other senators' time. As you proceed with your point of inquiries, we have another proposed legislation that we must discuss today. Senator Francis Heyliger, you may proceed.
So much. Through the chair to Director George, can you please provide us with the number of firefighters that have passed the EMR exam?
Yes, ma'am. I will send it with a package.
Thank you. Senator.
And Senator Francis Heiliger, you recognize for your 5 minutes.
Good afternoon once again to my colleagues, the people of the territory, testifiers. Well, from my deep dive, I understand the majority of that authorization is usually under the AG's office and not vested in the commissioner. Here are some of my questions I want to ask. I know my colleague asked why these specific states were chosen, and it was shared that you guys did a deep dive. But I also did a deep dive, and my office did so as well. And some of the things I found out in regards to the laws in these 21 states were quite interesting to me. And one of the things that we sought out to do was to really look at organizations that do a lot of research on the various laws throughout the 50 states. And for example, on Giffords.org, this is the organization called Giffords Law Center for Prevention of Gun Violence. And it's, if you could recall, Congresswoman Gabrielle Gifford, she unfortunately was shot a couple years ago while dealing with her constituents. But they have a rating sheet that alarmed me in regards to the gun laws in some of these states. And 11 out of these 21 states have F ratings when it comes to the very laws. So when you did your deep dive, did you make a comparison as to how their laws are viewed to individuals that are fighting against gun violence? Because 5 out of the 21 have a D rating. We have 4 out of the 21 have a C rating, and only the state of Virginia, according to this organization, has a rating of B. None of the top 10 are even here. So I understand you are trying to match up the background and the requirements in comparison to us. But did you look at the ratings across the board as to how some of these nonprofits really view these states and their gun laws?
Yes, Senator. So I did not look at this particular rating. I do know that there are different agencies and organizations that have provided ratings. Some ratings also come from the NRA. Some ratings come from different states, and you will find that they are as far apart as possible. And so my goal really and truly, as we identified the 16, as I just talked about, 16 states, is to take a look at what the comparisons were in terms of the reciprocal type arrangement.
2 minutes.
There's a lot of feedback on my, I'm sorry, but some states obviously were a lot more restrictive, while others were not as restrictive. So
the question,
we kind of looked simply.
Commissioner, I want to ask you a quick question. What is the whole purpose of this bill at all? I mean, wouldn't it have been more prudent that we focused a lot more on developing our infrastructure so we could process gun applications in a more expedient time frame than be stressing over to be dependent on the laws of other states so we can reciprocate? Because I'm going to be honest with you, as an individual that have dealt with gun violence in my own family with the loss of my brother who was murdered, I am very, very concerned about us having a doorway open for guns coming into the territory, whether legal or otherwise. And maybe if we focus more on our infrastructure to make sure there's a timely processing of applications as opposed to some of the long, stringent things we have to do, there would be no need for bills such as this. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this bill is very important, Senator. I think, again, there's a lot of gaps. We're very familiar with the gaps, and we're trying to look at this from a holistic perspective.
30 seconds.
So, yes.
Holistically, quickly, with this bill, can anyone with a license from the Virgin Islands go to any of these states and their license will be recognized?
No.
So why are we doing it here? Well,
but so if I can, Senator.
I'm trying to understand what type of reciprocity are we dealing with when they could come here with their license and function and we can't go there. I personally don't even understand why this bill is here and what the purpose is, because we're allowing and opening the floodgates for people to come here, and we can't do the same thing in their state. So where is this balance?
Yes. So, Senator, as you know, the current bill has it in it currently as it is, same or similar requirements. So what we're trying to do is literally enhance it to fill those gaps that are currently within our laws. So I do believe that it's very important that if people are coming here and they possess
I'm going to
firearms,
ask you
that we should
again.
know about.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and I know my time is up, but I really need a direct answer. Why are we doing this bill? If we cannot go to them, why are they allowed to come to us? What is the purpose? Is their laws better? Is their lives more important to be protected than any one of the local Virgin Islanders that live here and have to come to your department to go through the process to get a license? Why should theirs be expedited just because they're coming from another state? So when I happen to go to one of these 21 or 16 states, my life is important too. I might want to be protected, but we're separate jurisdictions and territories.
Ask your question, Senator, and then we can.
So I still need to know what is the purpose and the importance of this bill.
Thank you. You can respond on my time. Thank you, Senator, for the question. Commissioner, you can respond.
Yes. So I will allow my Deputy Commissioner Walwyn to answer this question.
Good afternoon. I'm Deputy Commissioner Walwyn, VIPD operations. Those states that were mentioned there, if you go to those states with a Virgin Islands gun permit, they will be accepted. Those are the states that recognize the Virgin Islands.
And that recognition is made through what, Commissioner? Assistant Deputy Commissioner, what is the mechanism that would allow for them to recognize this registration or license from the Virgin Islands?
There's a website, Handgun US Laws, and if you go on the website, it shows a chart of all of the states that permits concealed carry. Those that require you to have a license, and those that require not to have a license, and those that requires you that allows the VIPD or the states that he mentioned to have a firearm in those states.
What's the Senator, point of inquiry, Senator Heiliger, Francis Heyliger?
Point of inquiry through the chair to the commissioner. Earlier when I had asked in regards to us being able to go to the United States and be able to carry a license as well, you said no, but the other gentleman said yes. So I'm a little bit confused as to what the actual answer is. And I'm trying to understand, because while I'm sitting here, my office got about 4 phone calls where officers and citizens alike said they are not allowed to carry their license in the States and carry guns. So could you please share with me through the chair the information, so as a senator I can go look and find out where that we are allowed to go stateside and carry a gun? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Commissioner, are you prepared to respond to that at this time, or you want to submit the information?
Yes, I'll pass it over to, again, Deputy Commissioner Walwyn on this question.
Very well.
Deputy Commissioner Walwyn, VIPD operations, handgunlaws.us, handgunlaws.us. They will show you the states that will recognize the Virgin Islands gun permits, handgunlaws.us. Also, with regard to the question or the statement of police officers not being able to carry firearms in the states, I don't know of any state that can stop a police officer from carrying a gun, whether they are on official business or not. You're a peace officer, and all the states, well, most states will permit a police officer. Once you're a peace officer, you're permitted. I know
Yeah,
that in
but
some
Deputy
places
Commissioner,
like Washington.
Deputy Commissioner, the question is not
Yes, sir.
peace officers or police officers. We know law enforcement is allowed to travel with their firearm and declare it and carry it. The question is what we're trying to achieve by this proposed legislation, which is to allow any licensed individual, non-law enforcement, non-peace officer.
Handgun laws.us has a diagram of the United States and the territories and the ones that will accept the Virgin Islands gun permit.
Very well.
Senator Francis Heyliger, you are recognized for your point of information.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again. I just wanted to put some information on the record because I keep asking the same question because I honestly thought that the testifiers would be able to give me information based on credible resources. And I know my colleague across there mentioned that the domain name that you guys keep referring to, it's actually owned by a Steve Alkins. And his whole, and the reason why I asked the question about the NRA, because this is a personal website. And when you look at the owner of that website, NRA training counselor, NRA pistol HFS personal protection instructor, NRA refused to be a victim instructor, NRA chief range safety officer. I mean, it just goes down the list. And this is a personal website. So he has his own personal information he chose to gather and put up on the web. And it's very disheartening that this is the source that the VIPD is utilizing to come before senators to try to convince us to go and pass a law. So based on everything I'm hearing, I am going to tell y'all straight up, this is not going anywhere for me. I can't speak for the other 14 of my colleagues, but,
Thank you, Senator.
I can't do this. Y'all have to do a little bit better than this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Francis Heyliger.